Hello and welcome. My name is Tom Shima. Over the course of 2026, I'm playing the game Persona 3 Reload. Only I'm trying something a little different. I'm going to match the pace of the game. That's right, I'm playing this game one real day at a time. Please enjoy this different take on the game in a series I'm calling Persona a Day. Hello and welcome. My name is Tom Shima, and today is Friday, May 15th. As I like to do, I'm going to start out by talking about what we did yesterday. This catches us all up on current events and makes sure we're ready to come into today fully informed. After that, I'll get into today's gameplay and see where that takes us. And then we'll come back here and we'll talk about it and see what new connections and discoveries we can make. For anybody watching on YouTube, I will have timestamps in the description in case you want to jump ahead to a different section. I do also want to mention that this is a full playthrough of the game, so we will be encountering potential spoilers. So, let's look back at what we did yesterday on Thursday, May 14th. It was another day at school. As we arrived at school, we actually heard a couple students nearby talking about the school nurse and the weird medicine he offers. They were, not sure what to make of that. That actually got me, talking to you guys about that day about a month ago now, I suppose it would be, where we actually went into the nurse's office and he offered us some of that medicine. And thankfully there were no odd ill effects, and it increased our courage to have gone through with trying it for him. But, we already had a little bit of experience on that, so it was interesting to hear the other students talking about that same medicine. Maybe we're not the only ones that have been, experiments after a style. But it was just that fun kind of, background rumor you hear at the start of a school day, a couple other people talking about these, strange things that happen. But that quickly led into a more normal school day. And it was a day that the game didn't show us a whole lot of, but it was another one where it was pretty easy to assume what sorts of things went on between morning classes, lunch in the middle of the day, and then afternoon classes. The biggest upcoming thing in our horizon right now is midterm exams. Those begin this coming Monday. So I'm sure the school day today was further review, preparation, and just every class getting ready for these upcoming tests. We've been doing all we can outside of school as well to kind of further that side of things as well, but I'm sure the school day itself was, of course, the main side of that. So it must have been quite a busy day, a lot of things to keep track of in school. Even though the game made it seem like a quick day, I believe even from the word go, it was a busy one. But for our progress, that brought us to the after-school time, and I took the usual kind of stretch my legs stroll around town that we did, and that brought me to Bookworms, the elderly couple. It had been about a week since we had done anything with them, and I wanted a bit of a chance to see them. And at the same time, I've been trying to add additional meaning to things that the game doesn't show us that kind of build that deeper narrative to our game. So I figured, perhaps with exams right around the corner, this was a good chance to stop by the bookstore and pick up some potential study guides or a reference book on something. Just to give us that little bit of extra, flavor text meaning for being there. It doesn't change anything from the gameplay side of things, but just from our own personal story. I like to think that's one of the reasons we headed there. Because like we've been saying, we are trying to keep academics as our forefront focus. So it wasn't just to kind of goof off and, socialize. Even though socializing was a nice byproduct of being there. I like to think there was that other productive side as well. But whatever the story you want to associate to that, we made our way to Bookworms. And when I came inside, Bunkichi had his back to the door and was looking for something behind him. He sounded, a little confused and said, it was right here. I remember it being here. Where could it have gone? I don't know where it could have gotten to. So I had the chance to ask him, are you looking for something? Which obviously it sounded like he was, and he did confirm, yes, my detective skills were right on the money, and that was correct. He was looking for his missing wallet, which sounds like a terrible thing to lose. So of course I offered that, I'd be willing to help you look for that. And he was overjoyed to have more assistance. And it felt good for me to be able to offer a little bit of aid there. So Bunkichi, his wife Mitsuru, and I started looking around the store for this missing wallet. It's not a very big store, but it just wasn't turning up. I'm sure we were going from shelf to shelf just to see if it, had gotten set down somewhere, or maybe looking underneath things in case it fell out of a pocket or something. But it just felt like no matter what we did, it was not turning up. At one point, Bunkichi just kind of sighed, and it's like, we've looked everywhere, where could it be? As perfect timing would have it, at that point, the front door to the store opened, and a young man wearing the same school uniform that we had on strolled in, and he went up to Bunkichi and said, excuse me, I found this in front of your store. Do you know if anyone has lost a wallet? And lo and behold, in his hand was Bunkichi's missing wallet. It was, that ideal perfect timing that, this guy brings this in and says, did someone lose this? Because that was the thing we were looking for. And Bunkichi was overjoyed to have it back for a variety of reasons. Not least of all, having your wallet returned is a huge relief, but he's got a lot of sentimental things in there that we'll circle back to. But after turning the wallet in, the young man turns to me and, he kind of looks at me for a second and says, are you the transfer student everyone's talking about? And, I wasn't aware that everyone was talking about me, but I'm like, yeah, I recently transferred in. And he was excited. He said that I'm a transfer student too. I came over from France to study here. Maybe we're in the same boat. Maybe there's a lot of things that, we can relate to on each other with both being transfer students. And he seemed excited to have, a kindred spirit in that sense, someone to trade notes with. He seemed like he was really excited to be in Japan and to be learning here. He sounded like, that kind of formal but also excited guy from France. He introduced himself with a very long, fancy-sounding name, which, again, I'm still kind of embarrassed that I can't 100% remember. But he told me, to just call him Bebe. That was definitely easier for me to remember. But he said, oh yeah, call me Bebe. And he mentioned that, he's attending the school, he's taking classes there, and after school he spends a lot of his time in the home economics classroom. And he says it would be so great if we could stop by sometime and, chat a little bit more if I had the time. So he just invited me there, and at that point he just kind of excused himself and went on with the rest of his day. But it was nice to, meet a new face there and have a new place to potentially check out sometime. So after Bebe left, and I turned my attention back to Bunkichi and Mitsuko, Bunkichi was still relieved, and he was, going through his wallet just as one would for having a wallet lost in public and making sure everything was as it was supposed to be. And it sounded like there were no problems there. But he was especially excited when he pulled out what appeared to be a car key. And he's like, oh good, this is it. It's still here. It's right where it was supposed to be. And he said, seeing, these young guys in the store helping me out and, getting to do this activity to look for this wallet makes me feel like a young man again too, with this, fancy car key in my hand. And he turned to his wife. It's like, honey, do you want to, get the car out and go for a drive? And, that sounded like, he was riding high now, feeling good about the success of finding his wallet, and things were going to go good there. But as soon as he asked that, Mitsuko, she's always that soft-spoken, little old lady, archetype, but her demeanor just instantly shifted, and she basically, in no uncertain terms, said she would be doing nothing of the sort, and she was borderline appalled that he would even ask. She raised her voice and said, hey, how could you? And at that point, I was, didn't want to really get in the middle of that, but the game had me interject myself there and ask more or less, what's up with this car? What's wrong? And, that kind of calmed her down in the moment, and she apologized for raising her voice and, letting me see that side of her. But Bunkichi, at that point, he kind of, realized what he'd said and said, sorry, dear, I didn't mean to bring it up like that. And long story short, he revealed that, the key to that he had in his wallet was the key to their son's car. And for those of you that don't remember, their son had passed away at some point in the past. Well, we got a little more detail on that. Bunkichi revealed that there was an incident with a drunk driver that had taken their son from them. And he was in that car at the time. I can rightly see, his Mitsuko being concerned on that and, tying those two factors together and just the bad memories that must come from that. So I didn't want to press for any more details on that. And Bunkichi also realized what he'd asked. And so there was kind of that pall hanging in the air of that bit of negativity. I mean, I appreciated them sharing what details they were able to share with me and trusting me with that information. But I didn't want to make things any worse than they had to be for the couple. But Bunkichi has a great ability, we've already seen a couple times, to try to spin conversations back to a more positive direction. And just like before, he kind of looked at the room and said, what's everybody so down about? Why is everybody so gloomy? It's a nice day. I've got my wallet back. He turned to his wife and said, hey, dear, let's you and me go out and get a nice dinner tonight. Just the two of us. We'll have a great time of it. And, that did just what he was hoping it would do. It softened the mood on everything. It gave them something fun to do. It gave me a chance to excuse myself, thank them for sharing that information with me. But I like to think that, as the day went on, maybe they did go out and get that good meal in the evening, and maybe they were able to talk about some things and be there for each other and, just support each other as a couple does. But as I left the store there, feeling a little closer to them and good that they shared information with me, I was able to increase the social link progress with them, so we have moved up to rank 3 with that social link. So it was another, I don't want to say, it's hard to say it's good to talk about, loss for other people, but it was productive, I guess. It felt like, it got a good dialogue started. It wasn't just repressing that negativity, and it was allowing me to be part of it without forcing too much back to the forefront for them to have to cope with in the moment. So I like to think that going forward, maybe we can talk a bit more about their son and get to know more about him. But after all that, I don't believe I came home with a study guide, but I still made my way back to the dorm. And just like the night before, as soon as I entered the dorm, Junpei was right there. And he's like, hey man, can we go to Tartarus tonight? I really think we should go to Tartarus tonight. It's been a while since we've been to Tartarus. We don't want to get rusty or anything, do we? I'm so confident we can. You and I could probably take care of Tartarus all by ourselves tonight. Yukari was out, so she wasn't available to come with us, but Junpei would be undeterred. And at that point, it kind of gave me that chance to praise his confidence and say, oh, I like the motivation. I like the initiative you're trying to take. Or it gave me the chance to take the other route and say, come on, Junpei, you really need to hit the books. And I figured it wasn't really my place to be that guy. We're classmates after all. If he needs to do anything like that, I'm the first one that needs to do that as well, so it doesn't really work for me to call him out on something that I'm just as guilty of. So I'm like, yeah, I like the confidence. I don't know about necessarily going to Tartarus, but I like the energy. It was kind of that wishy-washy answer maybe, but Mitsuru was in the room as well, and she overheard our conversation, and she came over, and she was less concerned about about maybe sparing those feelings, but she came over and said to Junpei that, wow, that's some very impressive confidence there. You must be well ahead of your studies if you're so ready to go to Tartarus and you're able to take a break now. You must have finished your studying and your exam preparation already if you're willing to not continue that this close to exams. Man, you are very confident. I'm impressed that you're that ready. She really laid it on hard there to, in no uncertain terms, make Junpei realize that, the room knew what he was trying to avoid doing. And being caught where he was, he kind of walked it back a little bit. He's like, well, maybe I'm not that prepared yet. Maybe there are a few more things I could do. And it was then that Mitsuru, I like to think there was almost, probably a sigh or an eye roll there, but it was just like that, reminding Junpei and I both, both of us there, that the investigation into Tartarus is important and we are trying to do good work there. But we're also students, and we need to live the life of a student properly. And that includes studying and exam preparation. And basically, we need to be students first and treat our lives accordingly. And it was kind of nice to have that grounded advice from our senior, from someone who's, ahead of us in the organization, ahead of us in school, who seems to have things all figured out. She's got that calm, collected demeanor, but still telling us that even if what we're doing is important, that doesn't mean other aspects of your life need to be ignored as a result. We are students. This is our chance to study. We need to study. Exams are going to come no matter what. We just need to be able to be ready. At that point, I wasn't 100% sure on what I was going to do with the evening, but there was no way I was going to suggest going to Tartarus at that point. And it looked like, looking at the way most people spent their day, most people felt the same. Most people did other things. And narratively, it felt like, there was nothing I could really do but focus on academics. There were other things I could have done, but with exams on Monday, it felt like, I had to keep going with that academic push. And as we had done the night before, I decided that Wakatsu Kitchen was going to be a good way to go. As I've said, I don't want to get too repetitive on some of our tasks, but like a lot of the things, like I'd said earlier with, potentially the idea of picking up a study guide at the bookstore, I wanted to just add a bit of our own story to things so that it wasn't just going to the same place and getting the same meal. Yes, we did go to the same place and get the same meal. I'm not saying we didn't do that, but I wanted to add a little bit more around it. It's like, we had the time in the evening to go out and get a good meal that gets the brain thinking and active. And then that probably brought us back to the dorm in the evening, ready to study, with some time to study. We weren't going anywhere during the dark hour, so after an early dinner or whatever, we were probably able to get back to the room or somewhere else in the dorm and get out the books and review, today's lessons or whatever we were having trouble with. Junpei was there. Mitsuru was there, so maybe I could have asked questions to the two of them to kind of clarify some things I didn't understand. So it wasn't that I just had, a plate of fish and got smarter as a result. That was just the main waypoint along the overall academic-focused evening, I like to think. And, so I was able to go to the end of the day feeling like I took proper steps as a student, and I was putting myself as a student first, like Mitsuru wanted. And I'm still thinking about, what we need to do with Tartarus. I really do want to get back there, but there's the things you want to do and the things that you kind of have to do. And as I've been saying too, I like to, at least at this point, believe and hope that there's no reason to think the tower won't be there after exams are gone, but exams are going to happen on Monday, so I have to be ready for that first and foremost. So after our good dinner and assumed studying, we made some academic progress, and I think we were able to get to bed feeling accomplished and ready to come into Friday and just keep that same momentum going as long as we can. So that's the end of what we did yesterday. It brings into a new day, into Friday, with exams that one day closer now. So I don't want to plan our day before we're in there, but as with the last two, I think the academic focus is still kind of going to be that prevailing thought in my mind as decisions come up. But we'll see. Who's to really say what today brings until we get there? Enough speculating on that. I'll get us over to the game, and we'll see what actually happens. We'll be right there. Okay, well, apparently I took a while to get over there, so let me get that sorted out here. Okay, good. So this is where we ended up at Wakatsu Kitchen last night. We made that little bit of progress in our academics. Not enough to take us beyond average, but again, like I've been saying every time, those are steps closer. So, and after this, I, again, assumed that we probably went back and we did some studying, maybe with Junpei and Mitsuru, and that was how our day ended up. That ends up that day, and it brings us into today, Friday, May 15th.
Good morning.
And here's Mitsuru right from the beginning of the day. Good morning. Exams begin next week. Are you prepared? This is kind of one of those where I wish there was a middle option, because I feel like I'm better than not at all prepared, but it feels overambitious to say that you bet. I've taken a lot of good steps, but I can also see that there are definitely more things I could have done, so I don't want to sound overconfident. But saying you bet at least does have some level of confidence, and it's a lot better than saying not at all, because I do feel better than not at all prepared. So I guess of those choices, I'm going to say you bet. I'm prepared.
Yes.
Glad to hear that. I'll expect good results. That's fair. I mean, that ties right back to day one at that contract we signed when we arrived at the dorm. We're going to make choices, and we're going to be expected to live with the consequences. That was the promise I made then. That's going to hold true today and for the entirety of the playthrough. And we said that we're prepared, so she'll expect those good results. Ooh. And she's incentivizing it further. If you get good exam scores, I'll give you a little something. Consider it a reward. To be honest, I'm not as well prepared as I should be. I'm still preoccupied with monitoring shadows. Yeah, see, I mean, that's kind of the avenue I wanted to take. I've taken some steps. I've studied. I've eaten the fish dinners and things. I've been to the library, but there are other things I could have done. And there have been other avenues of directions that have taken my life that I have decided at the time were more important. At any rate, the number of incidents has decreased since the last mission. That's true. We've seen fewer of the people affected by apathy syndrome around, so that's an encouraging potential correlation. If we can continue to defeat them, we may be able to rid the public of their fear. But that large shadow we encountered recently was clearly much more powerful than the one in April. Even if we include Akihiko in our ranks after he fully recovers, we're still lacking manpower. Yeah.
So that's why.
All right, nice to have another actual class scene here. It's already the afternoon, so we made it through all sorts of morning reviews and lessons there, and finished up with lunch to come back to afternoon classes with Miss Terauchi here. Let's look at the paragraph on page 30, shall we? Kate was feeling a bit depressed today, but Jessie invited her to tea. Has everyone been feeling all right lately? Considering the season we're in now. Yes, May sickness is a real phenomenon. We've made it through the brunt of it, but it may still be lingering. Oh, it is the middle of the month already. That's wild. Sorry, tangent there. Okay, we waited through the brunt of it, but it may still be lingering.
Well then.
Now, who's ready for a little question? Mr. Shima, you're up. What's the other name for May sickness? The casual one. I love it. Does anybody remember we heard at the pharmacy? The pharmacist has talked about this a few times. He said, oh, what's the matter? Sounds like you got a case of the May blues. I think this is where we're going with this. Saying it out loud, I really hope it is, but I remember hearing the pharmacist talk about that a few times in his dialogue as we've been visiting him. May days. But it's got to be May blues, right? Yeah, it's got to be. May blues. Final answer.
Fantastic.
Yes, okay, excellent job. It's believed that the sudden change in schedule at one's new office or school brings about stress and a depressive mood. Thus, we get the May blues. That'll be on the exam, so make sure you write it down. Okay, we all heard her. We're all writing this down, right? Exams are next week. If this actually does show up next week and I don't get it right, there's probably going to be a correlation right back to this moment, so fingers crossed. We've still got a couple of minutes left. Let's talk about my experience studying in India. Okay, seems like quite the jump, but okay. I answered correctly. Everyone in class is looking at me with respect. Nice, a little bit more progress there. It was just the other day we got a question right in class, so we're 2 in a row now, but that's what took us up to unpolished for our charm. And I'm glad that the class seems to look on me favorably for getting that right, but I'm not to say I'm downplaying that, but I'm really just more excited that I got it right myself. I mean, I was really confident in that, but I've been confident before and it hasn't worked out. So thankfully this time it was correct. Okay, so that was a good afternoon session. And it brings us to the end of the day again. So, here we are. Let's move on with our day. We're all saved up, so that's good. Start with our phone here. A couple of the usual ads. It's good for your skin. We'll let you in on a secret. Our ramen is really good for your skin. The collagen that our dishes contain is sure to make you stunning. Our tender pork is a friend of beautiful skin. Make yourself shine by eating at Hagakure. And Chagall Cafe, quality coffee. How are you doing this lovely afternoon? Chagall is open for business today. Our cafe's most popular item, pheromone coffee, is guaranteed to increase your ability to captivate the hearts of everyone around you. We look forward to your visit. Good options. Probably not what I will consider doing, but it's nice to have those choices. Speaking of choices, let's see how other people made theirs. So, we had people going to the old couple again. We had people interacting with someone named Suimitsu, who we have not yet met. And then we had people going off the other direction with a variety of daily life tasks. So, yeah, I see Junpei's got something new to say. Let's start with him, but maybe we'll just take our usual afternoon walk and see what catches our eye. Junpei. Shit, I just had a dream about the monorail. My exams were posted all over all the windows. My grades were all like 30 or 40%. Actually, that's pretty accurate.
Seriously?
Man, I can't escape exams, even in my dreams. Sorry, that's kind of got me thinking about the other day when he said, I think it was 2 nights ago, he said, let's go to Tartarus, as he said last night as well, but let's go to Tartarus. Come on, we can take one night off of studying, it won't kill us. And I remember laughing with you guys, the thought of going to a place full of hostile shadows that are actively trying to harm us, and thinking that is, the better alternative than studying. It's that difference of priority, I suppose. And he was excited to make his way into the monorail on Saturday during the full moon, and he saw the shadows in there, and he pursued the one that fled. And he was ready to be a hero in that. So, to him, that seemed like nothing. But the academic side, that's a totally different story. But that also speaks to the differences in people. There are those people that are really easily able to step into those dangerous situations and take charge and not let it get to them. And there are others that can step into academic challenges and, overcome them or thrive or even be excited by them. So it's nice to see that, they've got that difference of characterization for everybody. And they're not just making anybody these one-dimensional characters that have nothing else going on, but they don't have all these, perfect characters that can't be stopped by anything either. Yeah, tests aren't Junpei's thing, but if we need somebody to take charge on something and to be the confident one, I want him in my corner on that. So it just shows the strengths and the flaws that we all have. And it kind of gets me to look introspectively at my own as well, both in-game and out, I suppose. But I'm thinking on the in-game side, with all my social skills and the things that we've made a lot of progress on, but I don't want to stop that progress either because we're an unpolished, ordinary, average person. It's 1 point better in all the categories than we started, but those rings still have a ways to go before they're actually full. So we'll just keep working on overcoming the things that are holding us back and keeping the people close to us that can help us out through that. And we've been doing a good job talking to people, so it doesn't look like a whole lot of new conversations to have. So I'm not going to get in people's way and interrupt them as they're going about their after-school time and whatever studies they're up to. Kind of wanted to come this way because this is, leads to the home ec room. Not that there's anything we can do in there right now. It doesn't look like anybody's in there, but, this was where Bebe invited us yesterday at the bookstore. And yeah, like all the other school activities and clubs, those aren't running the week before exams. That's why we haven't had any student council meetings or track practices or anything like that. So obviously the home economics club's not meeting today either. But that'll be another place for us to consider stopping once the more normal routine returns. Although I guess you could argue that exams are kind of part of the routine as a student, aren't they? But it's still that departure from the everyday routine to the bigger routine side. We never start at the mall anymore. Let's start at Polonia Mall. I always like to see what's on option at Game Parade here. Various games inside. We got House of the Deceased to work on our courage, and Real Wheel Racer for our persona's agility. I was really hoping for You're the Answer to work on our academics, but looks like that's not going to be a choice today. I always stop in Owl he gave, but I really want to stop in today.
Right.
I just wanted to stop in and hope your day's going good, but I also want to just thank you so much for your mention of the May Blues over the last couple weeks. That came in clutch for me today, and it really made my day. So thank you so much for reminding me of that recently.
We may be a small shop, but we've got a great selection.
You do, yes.
Stop by when you need a little pick-me-up.
I will do that. Thank you for always being here for me. I appreciate it.
You got everything you need?
I do.
Thanks.
It doesn't look like we finished any of Elizabeth's requests, but for anybody who hasn't seen, not that long ago,
Marvelous.
I believe it was Sunday, Elizabeth opened up to us that she's got some requests that she wants help completing and wondered if we would be willing to help. Which I said, yeah, that sounds fun. So she's got a variety of different tasks now that we can work on as we have time. It looks like we made a bit more of a social connection, so I can sense that the power growing within you stems from the bonds you have forged and nurtured. Here, it may not be much, but this is my gift to you. Please accept it. So as we make that social progress, it seems like Elizabeth's been giving us Twilight fragments.
I'm looking forward to it.
I still cannot foresee the limits of your potential. I look forward to witnessing you grow even further. So yeah, those Twilight fragments, those are going to be important as we go through Tartarus for a variety of things. They can activate certain devices within the tower, and they can open specially locked chests. So the more of those we can get, always the better. Especially since it's been a while since we've been into Tartarus, it's been nice to accumulate some of those now so that as we get into Tartarus and we encounter places where we could use them, we'll actually have some on hand to be able to make that choice. So that's been rewarding. Well, let's check in on our requests.
Are you accepting a request?
Yep, and like I say, there's nothing new to report, but just here's a general look at some of the things she's looking for right now, like hunting shadows, making a persona with a new skill, collecting items, doing the Wild Duck Burger Challenge.
Do you see anything achievable?
It's all achievable with the right effort, but nothing I can achieve in the moment, so Always just nice to keep tabs on where those are at and see if it can direct our day in some capacity.
Very well, then.
I also want to stop in and say hi to Igor while we're here. I don't know what social link time we'll be spending with today, but I don't think there's any additional persona we need to pick up since most of those aren't available during the pre-exam week.
Welcome to the Velvet Room.
Our compendium's already up to date, so I just want to stop in and officially, formally for the day, say hello to Igor, hello Elizabeth. Thank you both for what you've always been doing for me. I hope your week is ending up on a good note and that you'll continue to be on my side going forward. Thank you again, and I will check in tomorrow.
We look forward to your next visit.
As do I. It's never a big, long, drawn-out visit here, but it's always just nice to keep them in our mind. I keep saying it, but I want to just make a lot of the people around here seem less like menus full of items and more like actual people. I've been really enjoying that so far.
Now think of it.
And same with checking in with Officer Kurosawa here. It's good to hear that people are recovering still. I'm not here to shop, really. I have the same, actually a little bit less money than I had yesterday, but he's got a sale on Monday, so if we do any shopping, Monday's probably going to be the best day for that. But I just wanted to, again, check in on him and say hi. I hope in his line of work that it's been a calm, quiet, uneventful day, and that everything is just going as smoothly as one can in that position. And I want to thank him for his support as well. He's the one who provides us with weapons, armor, footwear, and accessories. So I just want to keep in mind that I appreciate that from him.
You finished?
I am.
Come back soon.
Okay, so that's the Polonia Mall visit for the day. For the daytime hours anyway. We might end up back there again in the evening, but who knows. We'll take a break up at the shrine here. No Maiko today. She seems to hang out right around the jungle gym here. We'll just, ponder the sacred tree for a moment. Enjoy this nice evening sky. Again, just nice to have that little bit of a break, away from the hustle of it all. We did just see Bunkichi and Mitsuko yesterday, so we could always stop in again today. I might consider that. I really do like the idea of doing as much as I can for our academics. Not that we have an abundance of different options going on right now. It would probably be either going to the school library to study there or back down there to Wakatsu Kitchen. Again, not bad choices, but if I have only Wakatsu Kitchen for the next 5 meals or something, it's going to kind of feel repetitive, and that's not what I'm going for. We never really stopped by the dormitory. I don't know that we'll encounter many people out inside, or in front of it here. We're not headed inside yet, but nothing really to see, but it takes our walk on a little bit further of a direction. Head down to Port Island Station to finish up the circuit here, and then we'll have to make a choice because we'll have seen it all. All right. And we're already headed towards screenshot. Let's see what's playing today. Thy name is now showing. High school students pay 1,500 yen. That would work on our charm. Nice, but again, not my focus right now. And that's not really fair to say because I need progress in everything. I shouldn't just tunnel on one aspect only, but again, it just kind of ties back to that current narrative story and the current challenge we'll be facing with the exams. Those are unequivocally an academic challenge, so doing the academic preparation seems like the fitting training montage. Hello, weak cat. Mew. I hope Friday's treating you well. And hello, weak cat's friend. I also hope you're having a good Friday. Delinquents, have fun. All right. Well, Have we seen everything the world has to offer before making our choice? I kind of feel like we have. Go to this side of the fountain. So, what are we going to do with our day? It's really, kind of getting, I've said before, really cool to see the splits getting closer and closer on choices now. Before it was so one-sided with 95% of people doing social links and 5% doing daily life. We've gone the other direction now, and it's like, things are really split now. Half the people are like, yeah, I think social links are the way to go. The other half are like, well, no, daily life is going to be our choice. And neither one is wrong. That's the really fun part, I think. Saying all that doesn't really make a decision, does it? It wasn't a bad day in the school library the other day, and it does seem like a good, modern resource to take advantage of. It would help us focus directly on our own schoolwork if we're there with our own books in our own school to prepare for exams that our school issues. I'm really leaning towards that. Well, Wakatsu wouldn't be bad, but we were there last night and the night before. Who knows? We might end up there again tonight, though I don't want to say for sure on that. It wouldn't be bad to see the elderly couple again. I mean, I do have the right persona with me. I've still got Bareth with me. Yeah, we're already up to rank 3 with them. So, yeah, that's not bad either. What do you guys think? I don't normally, ask you guys for your input as much as I really should. So, thank you for not backseating. But in this situation, what do you guys think? Any ideas? Would you rather I go, spend some time with the elderly couple, or would you think, that the studying in the library sounds better? You guys can chat amongst yourselves for a minute, and I'll continue our walk a little bit and decide where we want to end up. Probably should have asked you guys this sooner, so we could have, multitask this walk a bit. I'm not going to make you guys stare at this any longer. I'll take us somewhere. So let's make a call. I don't know if I need to take this as a sign either. The fact that of all the places I was, moving around on the map, I ended up, back here at the station mall. Maybe that's, that subconscious side to me that's like, maybe the elderly couple is the better choice today. And again, that's the fun thing. I think both choices have a lot of merits, and neither one is a wrong choice. But I just kind of want to, try to weigh that out as like, which is the better choice? If somebody came up to you and they were going to give you a $10 bill or a $20 bill, I'd probably rather take the 20, of course, but I'm not going to say, if it's not the 20, I don't want the 10. I mean, the 10 is still nice too, so, it's having two good choices, and, still, one might be better than the other, but the secondary choice isn't a bad choice. We're here, we're standing here. I don't want to take any more of our time up, so let's check in with the elderly couple again today. We'll try to look closer at our academics this evening, maybe, whether that's another trip to Wakatsu or what have you. But we're here. Let's do it. Bookworms, hello again. I guess, in the narrative I established for us yesterday, we came and we were, potentially looking for a study guide, and we got sidetracked looking for that wallet, so we never found any sort of study materials. So maybe we're back today to acquire what we didn't get yesterday. So yes, let's spend some time here today. Bunkichi, how are you doing?
Oh, you have bad timing.
Ah. Well, that's not the welcome I was hoping for.
My wife just headed out to GeckoCon.
Is that right? This is that tough call, too. It's like, I'm here to see both of them, so I'm not opposed to waiting here since Bunkichi's here. There's nothing that really dictates that, oh, I should head back there, too. I also don't want to be that guy who, comes into this guy's... Well, this is a store. I'm not really here in their home. But I was going to say, I don't want to be that guy that just invites himself in and says, I'll hang around. But I have... I like to think that I'm here for a book as well as a visit, so maybe he wouldn't mind if I waited here. This is a bookstore, after all. I don't know what she's headed out for either, so it's kind of presumptuous for me to assume that I should even be including myself with her in the first place. Oh, yeah, I'll try to display some patience and spend the afternoon with Bunkichi until his wife gets back. As long as that's not a problem. So, do you mind if I wait here, Bunkichi?
Well, she won't be gone long. In the meantime, why don't you keep me company?
All right. Sounds like a win-win for both of us.
Are you thirsty? Here, I've got something we could share.
He's been so nice about giving me stuff.
Wait, where are the cups? Oh, I don't know how to find a thing around here without my wife.
I feel kind of bad for him when I hear that. That's that side of a couple, though, and both members take the weaknesses for the other, and they help each other out. So I don't want to put him out or anything either. I appreciate the offer, but I don't want to make work for him.
Oh dear, you got back just in.
The tree.
I'll interject a little bit here for anybody who hasn't caught up with our story so far. There's a tree at our school in a courtyard. It's a persimmon tree that seems to have some connection to this family and potentially to their son. And we brought them a leaf from that tree, and weeks ago now they were excited to have it. So apparently something is up with that tree. And I just explained that tree, so we don't need to question that. So what happened?
What's gotten into you, dear? Take a deep breath. You ought to know better than to walk so far at your age.
Having looked at that map, that is quite a trek. Not to say she can't handle it. I don't know what she's capable of. For all I know, she could run laps around me on the track. But...
Here, drink this. And here's some for you, too.
I don't know that I've really thought about that scene, quite the same way as I'm seeing it now, but for him to just, fully take charge here after feeling, so incapable before about, can I get you a drink while you're here, Tom? Like, oh, I don't even know where the cups are, my wife always takes care of this for me. I don't know what I could do without her. Instead, he steps up and he takes charge here and he's like, honey, take a breath, I'll get you a drink, sit down. And so, when he needs to, step up and be the man and, take care of his wife, he's still sharp as ever to do that. A lot of respect for him there. And I got a tea for order as well, so thank you so much.
Well, judging by her reaction, it seems the rumors might be true.
He's talking about details that I don't have yet, but that's another thing this game does, where it doesn't spoon-feed you all this information. It's like, these are things, details that this couple knows that I don't know, but that's how life works.
The persimmon tree we told you about. The one by the walkway at your school.
I do. I like that tree.
My wife heard a rumor that it was going to be cut down, and she almost fainted.
Well, that would be quite the loss.
Do you know anything about this?
This is the first I've heard about it. So yeah, no, I don't know anything about it. I don't want to feed into the obvious worry that they already have about it and contribute to that myself and say, oh, I'm really worried about this. They're plenty worried already, so I'll just tell them what he's asking for, and no, I don't know anything about this.
Maybe it's just a rumor after all, then. There's a chance there's no truth to it.
Maybe. A lot of times rumors come from somewhere, but not every time. So there's that Bunkichi optimism again.
If all this worrying turns out to have been for nothing, well, that would be quite a relief.
Chairman Akutsuki would love that one. Get those two guys together.
If it's not too much trouble, could you tell us if you hear any more about it?
Certainly. Yeah, that'll give us a good thing to really check into as we go forward from here. I hope nothing happens to that. It's actually kind of been a while since we've even gone to that courtyard, so it'd be kind of nice to intentionally try to head back that way next time we're in school. And especially now that we've got a reason to check on things. Mitsuko-san seems to be counting on me. I feel like we're growing closer. I'm glad they can rely on me like that. And I love making progress with social links. We're already up to rank 4 with the Hierophant now. Very awesome progress. A little bit less of a heavy discussion than it was with yesterday's interaction with them.
I know I made it sound like something very important, but
If it's important to you to the point where it almost made you faint, then it is something important. I don't want to downplay something that's important to you.
only if it's convenient for you. Tell us if you hear anything about the persimmon tree, all right?
Of course. And I like that personality, from Mitsuko. I've talked about, the kind little old lady as well, but, she is genuinely really concerned about this. But even still, she's like, only if it works for you. Don't go out of your way for me for that. Don't really worry about it. It's fine. But underneath, and even just barely underneath, this obviously means a great deal to both of them. So, as a good social link, it's going to mean a great deal to me as well. I feel like I've got a mission from them now. And I parted ways with the couple and went back to the dorm. I'm not going to outsource the information, remembering to you guys, but once we get back to school, once we, tomorrow, hopefully even, let's do some sleuthing and see what we can learn about this tree problem. So here we are coming into the evening.
Welcome back.
No Junpei waiting at the door today. Welcome back, Shima. The exams are coming up. How's your studying going? Admittedly, I was confident this morning when she asked me, but the fact that I spent all afternoon not studying, not as good as they could be. I still remember the second year material well, so I can help you with anything you're unsure of. That would be such a gift. That will help. That's some real kindness as well, but as we've said with a lot of the characters in game, I think especially with someone like Mitsuru, she seems very direct on things, and if she's offering help, she means it. She's not, doing anything that she doesn't want to be doing. She genuinely wants to help. Kind of like when Bunkichi a couple weeks ago offered us some melon bread. I said the same thing. It's like he wouldn't be offering us these things if he didn't want us to have them. I feel like it's the same way with Mitsuru here. She wouldn't be offering her help if she didn't want to provide it to us. And I have to respond accordingly. That really would help.
Yes.
I'm glad to hear it. We might as well take advantage of living in the same dorm after all. I know these will be your first exams here, but don't forget to help out the others where you can too. That's a fun point too. I'll get to the tutorial box here, but the idea of being able to actually study together. I kind of referenced that yesterday as just an idea of something we'd done after Wakatsu, and, thinking that maybe we came back to the dorm with Junpei and Mitsuru and, did some studying that way. So to see we actually have this real chance now, it's really fitting and really cool. But yeah, studying with your peers. Before an exam period, you might find your classmates studying in the dormitory lounge. A collaborative cram session can raise your academics beyond what you could accomplish by studying alone. Well, tutorial aside, I think I know where a lot of my focus is looking right now for how I want to spend the evening. But again, I'll do what we normally do. I'm not going to just, blindly run over to their table there and, throw my books down. Although we might end up there. Let's first and foremost save the game. And put our books there, take our bag up to our room before we get into things. we've taken our bag and put that away, let's check our messages. An ad from Games Parade. Trying to be that little bit of temptation during, that final push to exams. It's like, I know everybody's busy studying, but come play our popular crane game and try to win a prize. Then stick around and hop into one of our many immersive video games. There's great fun to be had whether you're alone or with friends. We can't wait to see you. And how tempting would something like that be if you're, hours deep into studying after a full day of school where you were, hours and hours of studying, and you see an ad like this. It's like games and fun and friends. And man, I want to go do that right now. So, props on them for knowing their market and taking as best advantage of it as they can. But how did other people spend their evening? It looks like the ad worked on a few people. There were some people that went to the arcade. Some went to Wild Duck. Some gave up on all of it and went right to bed, but looks like the study group was well received by most. I'm thinking that's where we're going to end up too. But, I also saw Junpei down in the lobby, so we'll check in with him, see what's on the news. But it will be really valuable to take advantage of what Mitsuru and Akihiko know. And I want to try not to feel guilty about taking up their own study time because, they're third-year students. They've got it even, more challenging than we do. So the fact that they're willing to take their limited time to help me as well, that's a huge gift they're offering me. And it really will help, and it is kind of them to do, so I want to appreciate it accordingly. And I also noticed I don't see Yukari anywhere. We haven't seen her for the last couple nights, so I wonder if she's still out studying with her friends. Junpei, how you doing? I was saying, he's reading a book, but it might be a manga. But I don't know what the topic is. Maybe it's related to something from our studies. So maybe it's that fun tangential learning side of things where you're learning a topic through a different lens. One of those historical pieces depicted as a manga instead. So you're seeing history presented through something fun and making the best of it that way, or something maybe. Junpei, how you doing? How's your studying going? Smooth sailing? It's not nope, but it's hard to say it's yup. Just like this morning, it's not really a yes or no answer for me. It is probably more yes than no again, but it could always be better too. But I gotta keep that positive face. Yep. Man, you're one serious student, aren't you? Unlike me, I haven't even started. This is kind of that shame where there's not that chance to hey, maybe you want to join us and study as well? Or, I'm sure Mitsuru offered the same offer to Junpei when he came in, since he was here before we were, but, I guess I shouldn't assume that, like I said, I can't expect that she wouldn't have offered it, but it would be awkward if it's like, hey, you remember that study help you offered? I brought somebody else who needs help as well. Do you mind tutoring, more of us now? If she were faced with that, I don't think she would bat an eye at it, but I never want to be that presumptuous one either. So in this nice quiet room where people are studying and reading, I'm going to turn the TV on and see what's on. Let's see what's on TV. There's nothing interesting on the news. All right. It's a sign. No TV. Let's get cleaned up and let's really get down to studying the books. Yes, it's almost time for the first semester midterms. I should study while I still have time. I'm so glad Mitsuru offered this study session today. With the waffling back and forth this afternoon of how I wanted to spend the time and ending up spending it on the social link side of things, I really wasn't sure what we were going to do tonight because our studying options were not the broadest choices. It's kind of just been that choice between going off and getting the Prodigy platter or going up to our room to study, since the arcade wasn't an option for academics today. So I really love having this chance to do something different and get to know the people at the dorm a little bit better, and to just kind of be in that environment of it. I mean, that group study session of everybody working towards technically an individual endeavor, since exams are all individual, but working together to prepare each other so that we all have the best chances in our individual iterations of said exam. Yes, Mitsuru and Sonata, I'm going to spend the evening studying with you guys.
Yes.
Oh, it's you. I'm helping Akihiko with his studies at the moment. Would you care to join us? I believe we can be of some help to you. I would love that. I don't even want to ask, but I like the thought of, let's go to Tartarus. They're both studying. Say, hey, can you drop that and let's go to Tartarus instead? And I can just see that deadpan reaction of, no, we will absolutely not be doing that tonight. But no, please, let's study together. I really need that. Let's study. Very well. Then, let's begin. I also like that bit of a laugh there. Like, oh, good. You made the choice I was hoping you'll make. It almost feels like I passed a test even right there. She's like, is he going to ask about Tartarus or is he going to ask about studying? Did my talk about you're a student first yesterday sink in, or did it go over his head? Like, okay, good. He asked about studying. Maybe there's hope for this one after all.
Sorry, Mitsuru. I'm almost done.
He is sweating a lot, but I want to ask him about his notes here. Also, I've called it out on Akihiko before, but as a left-handed person myself, I love to see it in video games. So Akihiko, left-handed, love to see it. Yeah, are those Mitsuru's notes?
Yeah, she's letting me copy them. It covers the time I was at the hospital for my checkup.
That's good of her. And yeah, he's been recovering since last month when a big shadow attacked the dorm here. So he's had lots of, health checkups and things that I'm sure have taken a lot of his time up.
Akihiko, are you feeling unwell? You seem to be short of breath.
I picked up on that as well, but there was also that part of me that didn't want to draw attention to it. Mitsuru's very direct like that, and she's going to call it as she sees it, but it kind of seemed to me that he was trying to downplay it, so it didn't feel right for me to say, hey, you're sweating a lot. But, nothing seems to escape her gaze. I guess that's why her persona helps, map map Tartarus for us. She's got that broad gaze.
I'll be fine. More importantly, why don't you help his studies?
Yeah, Mitsuru, would you please help me? I think Akihiko's got this covered.
He ended up in the hospital right after transferring. Might need some help to make up for the class time he's missed.
That is also a good point. We arrived at the dorm back on April 6th. And our first day of school was on the 7th, but I think it was the 9th or the 10th where the dorm was attacked. And at that point, we awoke to our persona, but for the next, 7 or 8 days, we were in the hospital recovering ourselves. So we missed a non-insignificant amount of time in the last month as well.
You do have a point. Here, these are my notes from last year. You can use them if you'd like.
I would love that. I also like the thought that she just has those on her right now. She seems to be, that prepared and organized. I mean, I suppose she did offer, invite me to this study session, so I guess in thinking I might take her up on that, she had the notes on hand already, but that, again, just speaks to that professional preparedness that Mitsuru exhibits. I had a feeling you might be here, so I took the chance to get these notes around ahead of time. Here, you can use them. They're my notes from last year.
I don't think the content of the class has changed much since then.
Your notes are as perfect as ever. They're easier to understand than the textbook itself.
There is something that's really great to be taken from well-done notes, isn't there? I mean, there are things you can see just presented a lot easier than it is if it's just blocks of text in paragraphs. The right shorthand and the right focus on points, just the eye naturally flows from one topic to the next. It makes those connections a lot easier than trying to parse it out of thick, full information. And it sounds like this is another thing she excels at.
Flattery will get you nowhere.
And yes, she also does seem to be immune to that sort of tactic as well.
But I suppose I am rather particular about my note-taking. In class, I listen closely and write down bullet points. Then I organize them later into a more readable format.
She's way behind, or way beyond me then. I say I'm behind in that sense. I try my best to take decent notes. But I find a lot of times the notes I take I can understand just fine because I took them for me. I'm the audience for my notes. But a lot of what I take isn't intended to be understood by anybody else, so that's not how I present things. So I don't take my notes back and recompile them into something even better. But I'm sure there's a lot of benefit to that for situations like this, and as to a way to review the material oneself. Actually, at the end of each stream, I do kind of take notes now that I think about it. Every time I start the stream, I go over what we did yesterday. And those come from a bulleted list that I come up with after the end of the previous day's stream. I go through and I kind of rewatch, and so maybe I do some of this, but I do make those notes of we started the day at school, and then we went here and we did this, and I try to condense that down into something that I can efficiently read through the next day for the stream. So maybe this game is actually helping me in more ways than I've even already noticed.
It's a bit time-consuming, but I find it's overall a more efficient way of reviewing the material.
And from my own side, that does help getting ready for the streams. And I learned pretty early on that if I just try to wing it, that's not good for anybody. But that's how growing and changing happen, and I could feel that much more confident going off of notes that I put together myself in that sense. So yeah, it does take time, but it's time invested and spent instead of wasted.
If you plan your day-to-day tasks effectively, test preparation is as good as done.
She makes it sound so easy, doesn't she? It's like, oh, well, that's the trick. I just need to plan my day-to-day tasks effectively, and then the preparation is done. She's not wrong, but it kind of feels like, I get stuck on that, the three question marks before we get to profit. It's like, where did we go for step 3 there? I missed that part, but she makes it sound easy, and it kind of has that confidence vibe. It's like, oh yeah, maybe it is pretty easy. Maybe I can do that. These tips actually have been helpful. They've gotten me to look introspectively on things and to apply them to the scene, to myself, and hopefully to other things. There have been times, even during this little, side scene where I thought the truth hurts. But it's been interesting. There haven't been any points where I've wanted to doze off. And coming into this unexpected study session that is really helpful to me. The whole thing, I appreciate all of this. From exam preparation to actually, even more meta on the streaming side of things too. I like having something different to talk about and to show you guys, and to try to show this side of the world that I really do like in this game. And having scenes like this that go beyond just, going off to getting a prodigy platter at Wakatsu, this is great. So all of this I appreciate.
You seem to have a knack for this. I'll teach you more of my study techniques next time.
Wonderful. Anything she wants to share with me, I'm a better person for having information. No one can ever turn down information. You can choose not to use it, but to straight out ignore it, that seems dangerously irresponsible. I can choose not to use something I've been taught, but if I refuse to learn any of it in the first place, then I've already lost.
Mitsuru's right. Efficiency is key.
Fight, Akihiko, you got this.
We're all given the same amount of time. It's how well you manage it that can set you apart.
I'm not sure at what point I should be concerned for him. He's not sounding that great, but...
Indeed. Not even a second of time should be wasted. On that note, shall we return to studying?
For a boxer like him, it sounds like he's on the ropes waiting for a bell, but it doesn't sound like Mitsuru's going to give him one. Thanks to these two, I was able to focus on my studies more than usual. You'll love to see that progress. And this just fits so well with the narrative of getting ready for exams and being part of a dorm and making these connections to a team. There's a lot of sides of these two that we hadn't been able to see yet this playthrough. There hasn't been much time to really spend specifically with Akihiko or Mitsuru. So I really appreciate this night in a lot of ways.
Whew. All right, done.
You did it.
Huh? Akihiko, you're drenched in sweat and that heavy breathing. Are you sure you're...
I'm fine. I've just been squatting over my chair this whole time. Wanted to challenge myself to hold it until I was done with your notes.
So that's what it was. I had apparently forgotten a lot about how this scene played out. that fits like so Akihiko though, doesn't it? It's like, if I'm doing something, can I also make it training? If I'm studying, can I make it training? I don't want to say one-track mind because I appreciate, seeing all the different ways one can do something like that. It's like, yeah, if I have to be here studying, can I also, train my lower body and my core and, everything at the same time? Let's see.
Working out while studying is quite an efficient use of my time. What do you say?
That's one side you could apply to it. I'm not sure Mitsuru is going to take that side, though, so let's see.
Why are you like this? I thought I told you not to push yourself until you fully recovered.
She was quite clear on that at many different instances.
If you take efficiency too far, it'll backfire. Don't follow his example, okay?
That is a fair caution. And there was also that part of me that was thinking, while trying to work on, his balance and his core and everything like that, was he able to give his studying his all, or, did he divide his focus between the physical training and the mental side of things? Were either of the sides negatively impacted by the other? Did he get less out of his physical training and his mental training by doing both at once? It's hard to say, If he had dedicated some time just to training and some time just to studying, would he be as far as he is now? Would he be farther? Would he be less far? It's got to vary from person to person, so it's hard to really say for sure, but... so there is that caution. There is a time and a place for things, and trying to do too much can lead to failing everything at once. Throwing one ball up in the air and catching it's a lot easier than more than that for a lot of people.
Well then, I think we've made a fair amount of progress. Let's call it a night.
Mitsuru, Akihiko, thank you both so much. I truly, really appreciate that. I actually feel, I'm not even preparing for actual exams, but I feel like having this study time, I feel like I did go through a good session that's got me ready for next week now. It's weird to put myself that much into the character, but going through tonight, it really feels like somehow I earned the ability to take a sigh of relief for the progress I made. All right. Let's jump back here. So that is the end of Friday the 15th. Let's go back to the desk and talk about it. I'll get us right there. Okay. So here we are. I'm still, just, grinning ear to ear from that. It's like, that was a really well done scene. I really felt like I was there. The stakes for me are non-existent because I'm playing a video game. So, I don't have an important, exam, session, week of exams coming up next week. But, it was just, I was so able to get myself into the moment and put myself in the shoes of the character that it feels like I actually did, accomplish something there, which is the fun of video games and maybe to some the scary side of video games. And for those that aren't able to differentiate some of that reality between fiction, it could be the challenge. So, yeah, there's a lot of important stuff to keep in mind there. But yeah, that really felt like a great time in game. So yeah, let's just look back over the day, because it was another day that on the surface kind of looks quick if you just take it on the bullet-pointed idea. But going deeper, it seems like we really did a lot. We started out at school, of course. We have, counting today, it was 3 days until exams. They're almost as close as they can get. There's a lot of preparation to get done. We had some normal class, review and everything in the morning side of things. Probably not even normal review. It was probably very intense review on all the different subjects for the morning classes. And that brought us to the afternoon side of things, where we got asked a question in class about that feeling that comes about this time of year that is, associated with depression as the seasons change, and wondered what the more common term for that was. And I'm still stoked on that, because the pharmacist a couple times had mentioned, the May blues, and that stuck with me when he mentioned it the other day, and it came back here again. So it's like she was talking about the common term being the May blues. So I was able to confidently and correctly answer that. Earned a little bit of charm progress with the class. But I especially love the fact that that was something the game told us without telling us. That was background flavor text that the pharmacist just, offhandedly said while we were shopping a week or so ago. It wasn't a dialogue box that came up or a book I read somewhere or text highlighted in red that said, remember this. It was just something you really hear if you weren't thinking about it. But since we're taking the series at that relaxed pace and, going through one day at a time, it's been easier to stop back and see the pharmacist on a regular basis and hear some of those lines more often and to have it stick with me apparently and be used in class here. So that was really rewarding and encouraging. And, nice to be able to correctly answer things in a public setting anyway. That actually kind of felt like answering in a class as well, since I'm in front of all of you. It would be kind of rough to, excitedly raise my hands like, ooh, I know this one, and, and then blurt out the wrong answer. But thankfully, I didn't do that this time. We'll have to go back a few videos for instances of me doing that. But yeah, we got it right this time, and I'm happy about that. And that brought us to the after-school time after that then, and didn't have too many people with new things to say. We've been doing a good job socializing, and a lot of people are focused on their own exam prep, so they don't really have time for someone like me bothering them right now. But just like every other one of the last few days have been, I got to the afternoon and had that quandary of how to spend my time. I really do want to focus on academics and get ready for exams. But, I don't want to neglect my social links either, and I like to do those when I can. And I wanted academics to be the choice, which was really limiting for what we had things to do in the afternoon. It gave us basically today the school library or Wakatsu Kitchen. The games at Game Parade weren't focused on academics. The movies at Screenshot wasn't academics. So, I had a couple choices I could make that were things we've been doing a lot recently. Not that that's a bad choice, because it is the week of exams. You are going to do repetitive studying. Studying, by virtue of how it goes, is kind of a repetitive task. So I don't want to lament that as an option for us and say, oh, I can't do that because we did it yesterday. Because, that's life. That's how things go. But I was, going back and forth on that so much and ended up in front of Bookworms. I'd been deliberating for too long at that point anyway. I didn't want to, keep taking up everybody's time. So we were there. I figured, let's stop in and see the elderly couple this afternoon. I decided we were back to pick up that study guide we didn't get the other day. Looking back, I still don't know if we picked it up today either, but we came in and Bunkichi was there by himself. His wife wasn't around today. And he said, oh, poor timing, Tom. My wife just stepped out and, she went off to Gekkoukan to see something and she won't be back for a little while. And so I was able to say, oh, well, that's fine. Do you mind if I wait? I didn't want to rush after her and, get in her way since I didn't know what she was out doing. But Bunkichi seemed excited to have someone to spend some time with. So maybe at that point I was able to browse the bookstore. But in short order, his wife did return, and she seemed distraught about something. She came in out of breath and talking about, the tree. And that was that persimmon tree that was in the courtyard. And this was where I loved it. Bunkichi stepped up and got his wife a drink and told her to, sit down and take a breath. And, he was concerned about her, and he really did a good job showing it there. But he gave her some tea and said, okay, let's talk about it. Let's figure this out here. And she took a breath and said that she'd been to the school and she heard that the persimmon tree they were both so fond of, that there was a rumor that tree was going to be cut down. I hadn't heard anything about that, but they asked me, it's like, have you heard anything about a plan for something like that? And I hadn't, so I told them as much. So no, nothing like that's been mentioned to me. And they appreciated the knowledge, but they were obviously concerned. It seems like it means a lot to them. And Mitsuko asked me, it's like, if you happen to hear anything, would it be a bother for you if you could tell us? And I said, well, of course, that's no problem at all. She went into that, nice little lady mode again of, only if it's no trouble. I don't want you to go out of your way for that. It's just a little thing for us. But we could all tell that wasn't a little thing to them. She seemed genuinely, shocked or concerned about the prospect of anything happening to this tree. And like I said at the time, it means that much to them, so I want to be a good friend to them. I'm going to make it mean as much to me as well. So next time we're at school and we have a chance to ask around, I want to try to make a point to do that, to ask around. Whatever I can learn about that, we can properly inform the couple and see just what is actually happening and move beyond just going off of rumors. It seemed like they were able to calm down a little bit, and I was able to see just how important that tree was to them, more than just bringing them that leaf that one time and talking about how fond of the tree they were. It actually does seem to have some actually really deep meaning to them that they are concerned about something happening to. So it was nice to be counted on to do what I can to help them out there and to make that promise, committing that I will help them out there. That got us another rank of the social arcana there, so we're up to rank 4 now. And it feels good to be counted on for something like that. And it was also nice that the discussions weren't quite as deep as they were the other day about their son. Not that I want to get away from anything like that or anything, but it's nice to be able to take a little bit of a breath here and talk about different stakes, I guess, without going any further into that. But yes, I mean, they seemed to be in good spirits as I left. It was nice to spend the time with them and to have them trust me. And I made my way back to the dorm from there. And as I left, me, the player, I was thinking like, man, I'm not upset that I spent the afternoon doing this, but there was that almost guilt side of things. It's like, I was saying all at the start of the stream that exams are coming, studying is important, and then do I study? No, I go spend time with with my friends, with the elderly couple. So there was that little bit of myself that's like, man, I'm not practicing what I preach, am I? So I get back to the dorm, and Mitsuru was there. And she had said, again, reminding me that exams are coming up and just checking in again like she had done before school about, so really, how is your exam prep going? Is it going well? Is it not going well? I don't want to put on an overconfident face or try to, conceal the truth, but I don't feel like it's going badly. So I lean more towards the positive side of saying it's going well. And, she was encouraged to hear that. But I wonder if maybe, some part of her could pick up on the fact that, I did have some misgivings about my current progress, because she invited me to take the chance to study with other people at the dorm if I had any interest in that. Tonight, she and Akihiko were going to do a study session at the table by the kitchen area. And she said if I wanted to join them, she remembers the material from last year, so she could help answer any questions I might have. And, at that point, my eyes lit up. I mean, anime character style of like, oh, really? You would do that for me? That ray of sunlight, behind her. She's, that gift from God idea, the thing I need in my hour of need. So I rushed upstairs and, put my bag away, came down to check on Junpei, who was lamenting the fact that his studies are not progressing well. And I felt for him, but at the same time, especially tonight, he could see all 3 of us over there studying. It seemed like, if he really wanted to, this would have been the chance to try to join us, but he's his own man. He can make his own choices. And I'm glad he shared his concerns with me, but after checking in with him, I did make my way over to the table where Akihiko and Mitsuru were working. And Mitsuru confirmed that, yeah, we'd love to have you join us if you want to sit down. And Akihiko was working hard copying some notes that Mitsuru had taken this semester, and he sounded like he was in pain the whole time. And I wasn't quite sure what to make of that, if it was just, he was studying really hard, or if his injuries from last month were still bothering him. But, he was powering through it as best he could. I'd commented on Mitsuru's notes, and he said, she takes the best notes. They're easy to understand, they're, well organized. And then he even suggested, it's like, hey, you missed some time this semester, right? You were out for about a week in the hospital back when the dorm was attacked. Maybe Mitsuru's got some notes from your class that she would let you use. And being as ever prepared as Mitsuru was, she was just like, yeah, I have last year's notes right here. The material should be the same, so feel free to take some notes from my notes. Copy some of that down, and if you've got any questions, feel free to ask. So that was huge. I mean, having missed a bunch of time there, this does a lot for the confidence in coming into exams. Class doesn't stop if you're not there, it keeps going. So having actual, well-taken notes is just such a gift there. And so we were able to, get to our individual studies while probably, asking questions off of one another to clarify some things we needed help with. And I'm sure the evening just kind of flew by at that pace. Having more complete notes that I can then refer back to as well is just going to be such a gift. But after a while of doing that, I look over next to me and Akihiko, puts his pencil down, a nice sigh of relief and says, there, done. He looked totally relieved. He didn't sound like he was short of breath or in pain anymore. And Mitsuru was kind of, what's up? I mean, she'd realized, you'd been breathing hard. You were sweating. What's wrong? Is this your injury? And he was like, no, nothing like that. I just decided to, do some, core training, do some squats, squatting over my chair while I was here, studying. You're pretty smart, huh? I was training my body while I was training, with studying. And, I was still on the fence, about that. It's like, yeah, that's an interesting, ability to multitask. Mitsuru was, again, the more practical one and not having it and saying, I'm pretty sure I told you not to overexert yourself until you're fully healed. You remember me saying that, didn't you? And I think he kind of realized that maybe he made a choice that wasn't the best in the moment, because she let him know that, you are recovering. You're supposed to be recovering. This is not the time for training. So, why did you decide to do that again? I don't fault the guy. He really wants to get back into the swing of things. His physical training seems to be a really core part of who he is. So to not be able to do that must be rough. And I like the thought of trying to, make the most of all the time he has. It's like, if I can't be going anywhere, I can at least be, training in a squat position, right? And that was where Mitsuru, kind of sighed and just said, this is the danger of multitasking, basically. That gave me a good chance to think about the idea of multitasking versus focusing on a task. You and I, you guys and I, we got to talking about the difference there. It's like, would he have gotten more out of a session of strength training and then a session of studying? Would he be further in both if he had focused on each one individually? Would he not? It's hard to really say, but it also stems back to that decision-making side of things. By making a decision, you're able to focus on the thing you've decided on, and you can't do it all. So trying to do more than you're capable of could potentially set you back in both directions rather than, making some progress in both. So it's just that cautionary tale of, it wasn't bad this time, but who knows? So a good life lesson on top of the academic lessons we'd been working on. But it was just really rewarding to get to the end of that study session and come away feeling like I got to spend some time with the upperclassmen and have them take me under their wing to help me out. And to realize that I did have some misgivings on my own study progress and wanted to do something more than just, keep going out and getting fish or reading books in my room. I was super happy to have that invite to the study group tonight and to have the chance to take advantage of it. Anytime stuff like that comes up, I want to try to, do as much as I can with it, because it was rewarding, and it gave me a glimpse into the deeper sides of Mitsuru and Akihiko, and it got me thinking about some things I probably wouldn't be considering if we weren't experiencing it and talking about it. So, and we said we made more academic progress than we would have, on a normal night. So we just won across the board as far as I can see. And it's nice to get to the end of the night and just see that and feel that and just know that I came into the day feeling a little apprehensive on what the best choice was going to be. And so now to get to this point and feel like I really did make the best choices I had, it's really rewarding. But I guess on that note, that takes us to the end of Friday the 15th. We're coming into the weekend now, so exams are drawing nearer and nearer. I want to try to do as much as I can before then, and once I've done all I can, we'll be as ready as we possibly can become Monday. That brings us to the end of Friday, May 15th. And it was another really productive, rewarding day. I want to thank you all so much for being here. My name is Tom Shima. I stream this daily playthrough of Persona 3 Reload every day at 12:30 Eastern Time, so if you ever want to watch me live, you can do so then. I also upload each day's playthrough to YouTube, so if you want to watch the current day or any other past day, I have a playlist available there. I hope everyone is having a wonderful Friday the 15th, that your week is coming together on a good note, that you've hopefully got some fun waiting for you on the weekend, and that you can also find a way to be productive throughout all of it. I have been Tom Shima. I appreciate you being here, and hope to see you again. Thank you so much, and goodbye. With that, we've reached the end of the day. Please look forward to next time to see where the game goes from here. This journey is being streamed live on my Twitch channel if you'd like to be there in person for the experience. Links and schedule details can be found in the description. I'll keep uploading each day's session to this channel so you can keep watching here. Once again, I'm Tom Shima. Thank you for tuning in. I hope to see you again as I continue the series, Persona a Day. What will tomorrow bring?